What's going on, guys? Welcome back to WWE Network and Chill, where I, Graham Cheese and Matthews, break down all the original content I watch on the WWE Network and on Peacock. And today we're talking the April 16, 2022 edition of Talking Smack. We had Jackie Redmond out for this episode, filling in for her with Scott Stanford. And honestly, Jackie isn't awful. I mean, I've talked about her before here on the show. She does a solid job at her job here on Talking Smack and on Raw Talk. But honestly, I think I prefer Scott Stanford, and not just because he's been around longer, he has more knowledge of the product and whatnot, but I don't know, he's a goofy guy, he can be nerdy and stuff, maybe not nerdy is the right word, but he has a different dynamic to him with Matt Camp than Jackie does. Some of the stuff that Jackie says and does here on the show is just cringy, but at least in my opinion, she's fine. I personally prefer Scott Stanford. I assume Jackie will be back on Raw Talk this week and Talking Smack next week as well, but I like Scott Stanford filling in for her on the show. So they start off the episode running down the biggest headlines from Friday's SmackDown before recapping Ricochet and Jinder Mahal for the Intercontinental Championship, a match that was won by Ricochet, still the Intercontinental Champion. We hear backstage from Ricochet with Kayla Braxton, and Ricochet says it was a satisfying win to beat a former WWE Champion, a former United States Champion, and that it was good to shut up Jinder Mahal with that match last night. Also got to show why he's flawless, and he feels this is just the beginning of a long reign for him, I guess we'll see on that, as Intercontinental Champion. Also calls himself a fighting champion, and everyone has an opportunity to step up. Sam Roberts, who is the special guest analyst for this episode, says that it's a very dangerous time for him to be saying that he welcomes all comers, from, Gunther and Sheamus, who Matt Camp teases could be next in line. Everyone is going to be gunning for that gold, and honestly, when Matt Camp said that, Sheamus, I think, would be ideal. I mean, at some point, he has to fucking win that championship. He's like the only person left in the company that cares about the Intercontinental Championship, so that has to happen eventually. But honestly, now that Gunther's on the show, maybe Gunther wins it next and Sheamus wins it for him, or vice versa. I don't know. But I just remember, I think back to that gallery that WWE did a few years ago on their website of this person with the Intercontinental Championship, and I think Tyler Bate might have been one of them. There were several people that I'm like, oh, wow, that could be really interesting. And Walter was one of them. And now thinking about it now, Gunther, whatever they call him, however they refer to him as the Intercontinental Champion would be pretty fucking cool. So I would love to see a Gunther Ricochet match. I think that'd be awesome, personally. Sam Roberts also hypes up Ricochet's abilities and what he can do in the ring before they replay the Charlotte Flair-Drew Gulak segment, where Charlotte attacked Drew Gulak and put him in the figure 8. Matt Camp says that Charlotte is just merely playing mind games with Ronda Rousey, forcing Drew Gulak to quit. And I missed that, by the way, when I was watching the show until they mentioned it here. So maybe Gulak's already done as a member of the broadcast team, because I guess he quit when Charlotte attacked him. I guess maybe that's the last we see of Drew Gulak on SmackDown for a while, because we haven't seen him in many, many months. I think he was on the Go Home show before WrestleMania in the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, but clearly that was a 2-second cameo. He does emphasize, as he did last week, Matt Camp, that Charlotte tapped the WrestleMania, but then again, taps don't matter in an I Quit match. You just have to say the words, I quit. They recap the Rhea Ripley Naomi match, which was really, really good. Scott Stanford teases potentially new champions on Monday, with Rhea beating Naomi on Friday. Backstage with Kayla Braxton, Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan are very excited over their win, show no signs of dissension, and they're just currently in the process of preparing for their women's tag team title opportunity on Monday, and also discuss being in sync, which they very much are. I know the Rhea and Liv pairing is coming to an end very soon to pave the way for a real heel Rhea and her hopefully pairing up with Edge and Damian Priest. But yeah, I just think they've been a great team. They have great chemistry, and they're clearly enjoying being together. So it's going to be short-lived, but it has been fun while it has lasted. Matt Camp says the confidence for Sasha Banks and Naomi, which was very much there going into WrestleMania, might be waning going into Monday for this tag team title defense. And Matt Camp also mentions that Rhea's been on a roll since fans returned, and if not one of the best wrestler in the last 9 months since fans returned, that has not won a championship. Now, that's what he said, and obviously she was women's tag team champion for a few months. I think he means singles champion. She has yet to regain the Raw Women's Championship, and obviously isn't the SmackDown Women's Champion because she's on Raw. So, definitely a possibility. But yeah, he just enjoys the competitive nature right now in the women's division, the women's tag team division, and looks forward to that match on Monday, as I do. They replayed the opening segment before recapping the Riddle and Jimmy Uso match that was won by Riddle in the main event, before recapping Drew McIntyre beating Sami Zayn again for the second straight week by countout. Zayn backstage, he's always great, always very entertaining. Backstage with Kayla Braxton, he says, kind of reiterates what he said what he said last week. He's not afraid of Drew McIntyre, and it's all a part of a master plan. He did not run away, he says. He clarifies. He actually noted that the documentary that he was filming for over a year is currently tied up in legal battles. So that's why we haven't heard anything about the documentary in a long time. He calls himself a strategist and that the Lumberjack match next week against Drew was not fair. And next time when he's interviewed by Kayla, he wants nicer questions. Sam Roberts says that Sammy just keeps being put in unenviable positions. And he's kind of on Sammy's side in that he's one of sports entertainment's, that's what he says, best performers. But he doesn't get the credit he deserves by the company themselves, in storyline anyway, he says. Matt Camp says that Drew McIntyre has wanted gold since coming over to SmackDown late last year, and he knows count-out wins just aren't enough, and that's why he needs this pinfall win next week. And Robert says that Zayn, his goal in all of this is simply just trying to avoid the Claymore, and that's what he's been doing the last 2 weeks. Sam Roberts says, as far as the tag title stuff is concerned, that RK Bro is on a friendship high right now, and that as much momentum as they have currently, the Usos are the greatest team in WWE history to ever grace the WWE mat, he says, and that they will be the team to unify the tag team titles at WrestleMania Backlash. And Matt Camp backs that up by saying they've been champions for a reason for over almost 300 days. And we'll see if that reign is in jeopardy come WrestleMania Backlash. So that's it for Talking Smack for this week, April 16, 2022. Pretty standard show. Sami Zayn entertaining as always, and Ricochet was fine, and who was the other one? Oh, Rhea and Liv were great too. So a pretty standard edition, not bad. I actually thought it was an improvement over most episodes, as I like Scott Stanford in the host role over Jackie Redmond, but that's just my opinion. So thank you guys for checking out my review of the show. I appreciate it. Be sure to like the video, drop a comment, share the video, and subscribe to the channel for more daily content. More content coming tomorrow. Usually these Talking Smack reviews go up on Sundays, and I'm not posting it today because Easter's tomorrow. I'm posting more stuff tomorrow, but it's either going to be Fozzy live reaction concert videos I took last week or stuff from WrestleMania weekend. I'm not quite sure yet. And more interviews to come as well very, very soon. So stay tuned on that stuff. Have a great rest of your holiday weekend, guys. I'm Graham G. Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.